A good Erev Shabbos, everybody. I begin with Birchas Kohanim. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe Lemar, Daber Larav Banav Lemer, Kesavaruchu es Bnei Yisrael Amar Lahem. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yoir Adonai Pana v'elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai Pana v'elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. V'samu Shemi al Bnei Yisrael v'ani avorachem. So I want to talk to you today about the game show Let's Make a Deal. Not so much the game show itself, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, especially those of you from the 60s and the 70s, but its host, Monty Hall. Monty Hall's name has always been associated with the game show that he made famous: Behind Door Number 1, Behind Door Number 2, Behind Door Number 3, Behind the Big Box, What's in Your Pocket, What's in Your Pocketbook, What's in Your Wallet. But what people don't know is what enabled Monty Hall to become Monty Hall. So let me tell you his story. Monty Hall was born to Orthodox Jewish parents in Winnipeg, Canada, which had attracted many Jews from the Ukraine. Monty Hall's father was a kosher butcher who struggled financially. After Monty's first year in college, he had to drop out because he couldn't afford to continue. Living in the same community was an entrepreneur by the name of Max Fried. Max Fried owned a very successful clothing company. Max Fried wore fancy suits and had a reputation around town for living the good life. One day, Max Fried happened to meet up with Monty Hall's father, Harvey. And he said, "Was that your boy I saw yesterday washing the floors of a warehouse?" And the butcher responded that indeed it was his son. So Max Fried tells him, "Tell him to come to my office tomorrow." Monty Hall showed up the next day, and Max Fried made him an offer. If he went back to college, Fried would pay for all of his expenses on 3 conditions. 1, his grades had to be a B plus or higher. 2, he had to send Max a monthly report on his progress. And 3, he had to promise that one day he would do the same for another kid. Monty Hall, of course, took the deal, at which point Max asked him to get back to him with a budget. When Max reviewed the budget, which included tuition and living expenses, he noticed that Hall had put in 25 cents a day for lunch. To which he said, "Don't you want to drink with your lunch?" He said, "I didn't want to add it to the budget." He said, "Go ahead, add 5 cents a day for a Coke and throw in something for haircuts too." Once they agreed on the budget, Monty Hall resumed his studies at the University of Manitoba. For the next 3 years, he thrived. He was the first Jewish student to become president of the student body, a very prestigious position. He scored excellent grades, and he reported regularly to Max Fried, who kept a very close eye on his progress. Shortly after his graduation from the University of Manitoba, Monty Hall moved to Toronto, and he began a career in radio broadcasting. From there, he moved to the United States and he began working in television, creating and producing shows. His big break came when he sold Let's Make a Deal to NBC in 1963. As Monty Hall became one of the best-known names in television, Max Fried was very, very proud of his investment. The two of them always stayed in touch. But it wasn't just Monty Hall's fame and success that made Max Fried proud. It was also, and more so, his charitable work. Indeed, he went way beyond his original promise to help another kid get an education. In fact, he became one of America's most prominent fundraisers, helping charities raise more than $1 billion. In Toronto and Philadelphia, there are hospital wards that bear his name. A few years ago, Hall heard from a doctor that Max Fried, then 99 years old, was nearing the end. He took the first flight to Winnipeg to be near him. And when Hall got to his bedside, they talked. They reminisced for a little while. And finally, putting his mouth close to his mentor's ear, Hall said to the man who had picked him up 75 years earlier while he was washing floors in Winnipeg, he whispered to him, Max, you gave me a life. You gave me my life. To which Max Fried, the former fly-high businessman who invested in a Jewish kid he hardly knew, replied, no, Monty, you gave me a life. I got an email earlier today. It was for someone that reached out to us. We publicly let it be known that anyone that was in need of food or supplies for Thanksgiving should get in touch with us. And this individual got in touch with us, not from this community, from the Valley, and said, I'm embarrassed to ask, but we have no funds to make a Thanksgiving dinner for our family. We responded immediately and took care of it for this individual and their family. And this morning, the person wrote to me and said, I want you to know how special a Thanksgiving dinner we had last night. Obviously, we've had Thanksgiving dinners before, but this was the most special. And what made it most special was knowing that total strangers out there cared for us. That's truly Thanksgiving for us. And I responded immediately the same way that Monty Hall responded. Don't thank me. We thank you. Knowing that we were able to help a total stranger have a Thanksgiving dinner, what that does for us, how we feel about it, we're the ones that's thankful for giving us the opportunity, for reaching out to us. Reminds me of a story, a woman named Ruthie. She tells a story of the day her husband, Ben, received the dreaded news nobody ever wants to hear from a doctor. Pointing to an anomaly on his MRI, the doctor said to Ben, you see that? That's a tumor. And it was like a bad dream. All the years, Ben and Ruthie were pillars of their community, always running and organizing and doing. People were always turning to them for help, and now it was their lives that were being overturned. And they went through the nightmare none of us should ever know from it, of tests and scans and x-rays and blood works and biopsies. Is this really happening to us? When the doctor finally studied all the test results, he gave Ben his opinion. You're going to suffer for about a year or so, and it's going to be hell. I'll be straight with you. But I believe you're going to come out of this okay. Great. They grabbed onto those words like a precious life preserver. Now, with renewed faith and with optimism, they embarked on the treatment process. For as long as they could, they tried to keep things under wraps and not let the word out what was going on. But then with the chemo and all the side effects and the hair loss and the weakness and the nausea, it could no longer remain a secret. Slowly, people in the community began finding out, and then the phone calls started, inquiries and prayers and words of support, always ending with the question, what can I do for you? How can I help? And it was very nice and it was very kind and very gracious, but Ruthie would answer, nothing. We're okay, but thank you for asking. Well, if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to call. Sure, but she had no intention of ever taking them up on their offer. After all, she was the one that always offered to help, not want to receive help. But then something happened. It was a Thursday, 3 weeks into Ben's treatment, and it was becoming very real. And knowing that they had now at least another year of this ahead of them was quite daunting, if not a little depressing. On top of it, Shabbos was coming. How are they going to get through this? How are we going to get through this week in, week out? And just when she's thinking this all, there's a knock on the door. It was a friend. And there she stood with a full Shabbos meal, fish, soup, chicken, side dishes, dessert, paper plates, napkins, everything. And the friend says, listen, I don't mean to intrude, and if you can't use it, just freeze it, okay? Goodbye. And she left, just like that. Ruthie's first reaction was to say, no, take it. This is too much. We don't need it. I can cook. Take it back and use it for your own family. But the woman was gone. She just checked out. The enormity of the gesture was overwhelming. Ruthie knew what it took to prepare a whole Shabbos meal, and this woman had a large family of her own. And she didn't ask if she can do something, she just did it. The effort and the caring moved Ruthie beyond words. And then she thought about all those people who had offered to help if she needed anything, all the people she had turned down. And you know what then she said? They offered, and I'm going to take them up on it. And she then proceeded to call back her friends and ask for a little bit of help here, a carpool here, a grocery run there, a trip to the bakery. And you know something? They were all thrilled. They were so glad that she called, of course, anything. And then Ruthie began to experience a strange feeling. Because she had given others a chance to help, suddenly she began to feel lighter. It wasn't just that the errands were getting done, but now that her friends were taking an active role in helping Ben get together, she didn't feel alone anymore. A giver by nature, Ruthie had to learn how to take, something which didn't come naturally to her. But in the process, she realized that in a community where people want to help, taking can be a form of giving too. My friends, Judaism is about many things. It's about faith. It's about knowledge. It's about rituals. It's about values. But at its core, Judaism is about relationships. Relationships between us and God, between us and our family, between us and our neighbors, us and our community, us and our people, us and humankind. It's about the bonds that binds us to one another and to God. And for this, and for our community, and for all the opportunities to give and to share, I am forever thankful. May it be indeed a weekend of Thanksgiving where we stay focused on the theme of giving thanks, of giving, of sharing, of caring. That's what makes it so special. Shabbat Shalom to all.